Hello?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Good evening.
Hi. Hi, good
Buonasera.
evening. Buonasera. Do you speak Italian?
Well, a little bit I understand. Io capisco,
Uh-huh.
but non parlare.
Okay. So welcome here virtually on our screen. And we have just seen your movie. That's wonderful, in my opinion. And so thank you for
Thank
your
you.
movie,
Thank
first
you
of all.
for doing this with the film. And well, I thank for the people who stayed for such a long film. I know it's long. This is why my new two films are 70 minutes and 60 minutes. So I paid my punishment for that.
No, I think we enjoyed it very much, and I hope also the audience will say something and ask questions. And first of all, I wanted to maybe to start with the first question. So people at the beginning are usually a bit shy, and they still have to think about the movie they have seen. Also, because this is really a very complex movie. It's very enjoyable, I think, but it's also full of different layers, different things, and at the end, it's really extraordinary with the multiplicity of layers that you put inside your movie. And I wanted just to ask you how and when you started to think about this movie with this, we could say, story, different stories intertwined, interwoven,
Mhm.
and also different materials that you used in the movie.
Well, it's difficult to give a straightforward answer because there were periods and periods. What I mean by that is that I had a kind of a job similar to the main character. I started when I was young, doing all jobs in cinema, assistant of any kind, an assistant director, casting assistant, etc., etc. And that was just the beginning of the years 2000, where Romania was opening up to the bigger market, so to speak. So I had the chance to work for a lot of foreign productions, but looking back to that, I understood that it was also part of a big exploitation system in a way, because we used to work, like not 8 hours a day, not 12 hours, which is like the rule in cinema, but sometimes 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours. The maximum I think was 50 few hours for a shooting day. It was like so I during this time I encountered all the stories that you see in the film in one way or another, and then played them in my head for years, looking back, trying to understand. So little by little then came the idea to make a film, and then the structure, it's a bit another matter, because for instance, in this case I started with the last part, and then I remember another story, the story of a young boy. It was a boy, not a girl, in the real story, that was pushed to drive so much on a shooting that he ended up dying in a car crash, and nobody was found guilty except himself, of course. So all these things came together, and if the decision to make the film appeared, I think it was because um, in a way I felt these stories are somehow significant, not only as like real life stories or stories taken from real life. I think this is not important, but I felt that what is somehow important is the fact that they signify something about a certain type of person, a certain place, a certain moment in our world at the periphery of Europe, I saw. Then maybe I don't know if it's relevant for the rest of the for other people or other countries. I don't know. So it was little by little and gradually.
Okay, thank you. And there are two scenes that impressed me a lot, because all the movie is a sort of journey, a very anxious journey with very quick. It makes us think a lot about our very quick life, when we don't have the time to rest, and also it makes me think a lot about the craziness of real traffic in the cities that we go through every day. It's so present in our lives. And there are two stops in this running. One is the crosses, the scene of the crosses, and the ending scene, when we are just in front of these people that are like us, we could say, and they are in front of a camera, but we perceive that camera very well, and this is a moment where, just as in with the crosses, we are forced to think. We have to think about all what we have seen until that moment, and it's really like a moment when we have to try to form an opinion about all we watched until that moment. I really found those two scenes very, very meaningful in the movie.
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, I would say that when you speak about the traffic, you cannot compare Italy traffic with Romanian one, in Bucharest at least, which is much, much more horrible. Of course, maybe then somebody from other part of the world can say Bucharest traffic is beautiful compared to us. So it's always you can find worse places. Now, well, what you say, I don't know. It's difficult for me to discuss the eventual effect on the film, but if there's something that I strongly believe in, somehow, is that cinema is well, entertainment, as it said, or something like telling stories, etc. But I think that in the same time is or could be or should be a tool for thinking, a tool for reflection, a way to describe the world with certain tools, with a camera and with montage, with editing, and then being able to look at the screen and have a engagement with that and have a reflection. Whenever I'm asked these questions that arises all the time for filmmakers and for maybe less for painters or composers or other people who work in other artistic fields, is your film changing the world? And I always say, well, I don't want the film to change the world in a way. I want the film to stop the changing all the time, or the action, and be a tool of reflection. But I think that this is, and I want to take advantage of this invitation to speak about my not admiration, but my debt towards Italian classical Italian cinema. I was raised in a way, if you want, since I was a teenager, with the films of Rossellini, with the films of De Sica, with Antonioni, with all the big filmmakers. Pasolini, I think, is maybe the most important for me, and the closest in a way to this film. So I think it's, whenever I'm invited to speak in Italy or to show a film, I'm very anxious, because I say, my God, this is the country of cinema in a way. in Europe. So who am I to speak to people who gave us Rossellini and Pasolini?
And if I'm not wrong, you followed some of their indications. We could say the workers in your movie are real workers, if I'm not wrong.
It's a mix, but the people who appear there are not are unprofessional, and they have this disability that they have in the film. Yes, it's true.
They are not actors.
They are not actors, and but they were not in the exact situations like in the story. They had different other issues. Yeah.
Okay, my last question, then I will ask the audience if they have some, is about the two Angela that meet in the movie. One Angela comes from an old Romanian movie, and she's sort of naive proto-feminist character, while the second Angela looks like a character in our time, where even feminism or criticism in general turns out something not impossible, because Angela is critic towards the world, but it's really sort of resistance that's nearly impossible. She has to be against something and accept the same thing at the same moment. And even her sort of feminism is something that is really paradoxical.
Yes, I guess you're right. I couldn't phrase it better. Maybe I would add that also I think there's two. It's not only a clash of or a meeting in montage of two characters or two women or two modes or possibilities of existence, but it's also two ways of representation, because we must know that that film from 1981 was made during communist censorship times, where everything had to be, I mean, if it was not direct propaganda, it was things that had to be somehow mild. And Lucian Bratu, who's the director of that film, used to be harsher before, tried at least with one film, but this film is a kind of medium average film. But actually, if you look more attentive to it, you find there's a lot of elements of subversiveness into it. So I think it's an interesting thing, an interesting object is a film which is like a regular soft propaganda film for showing things well, going in a good way, although there's small problems here and there. But he really, I think he was. This is my thesis that it is a subversive film, and this is why I chose it in a certain way. And then, of course, the part I did, the contemporary part, is made in a different language, and for good reasons, I think, at least in political freedom. So I didn't have to face any censorship committee apart from the economical censorship that it's all over the world. Of course, you cannot have all the money you need for the film, or even in this case, because of the character of Bobica, there was some German funding that decided not to they decided to withdraw because they said it's too risky to have this. So yeah, there is a different kind of censorship, but let's say it's not the political censorship that they had to face. So I think you can balance a little bit what is it a film during censorship, and it's interesting to see that the film during the censorship looks very more nice, and the film made in political freedom looks much more messy. And I don't know if there's a conclusion to be taken from that, but this is how I see it.
Thank you. And now I will look for rising hands. Oh, there are already a couple. So here.
Good evening. Oh, that
Hello.
was so loud. Thank you for this movie. I really enjoyed it, and
Thank
I
you.
felt that it was. I felt that it was very a new product and maybe a new way of think about a movie maybe nowadays. And I have so many thought about the movie that I cannot think about a specific question, but you already mentioned like Italian old cinema as an inspiration. I was wondering if you have any other suggestions or inspiration for this, maybe whatever. So the music was amazing, the dialogue. So if you have any tips for us for also maybe think about something creative like you did, I would be very like I really like it. So
Oh,
thank you
thank
for
you.
that.
You're very kind. I think that if not as recommendations, because I wouldn't dare to recommend someone something to you, but the film is under the sign of two, in a way. Apart from what I spoke before, there is also an influence from Andy Warhol, the filmmaker. I mean, Warhol as a filmmaker. Of course, Warhol is a hugely known visual artist, but I think his work as filmmaker is much less known. And I discovered it something like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and little by little it became extremely important for me, because Warhol somehow reinvented cinema, somehow went back to the beginning and started to make an enormous quantity of films, silent films, black and white, color, documentaries, fiction, a mixture between the two, and always accepting the mistakes, always accepting a certain chaos, let's say. I'm not saying I did the film like Warhol, but I think the study of his films and the study of his work and the study of books about him, I think I read everything, or everything significant, was very important. And the other one, it's even less well known, and he's not a filmmaker. It's there is a poet who actually was a physicist, and he invented in a certain way this concept of found poetry, and his name is Bern Porter. And Bern Porter was someone that could had this idea that everything around could be framed as poetry. So if you take, for instance, this thing, because I'm in a hotel, I don't think you can see it very well. It has to be, I don't know, it's blurry. It's just yes, we smoke free. It's writing here on the. Then Bern Porter can put it in a book of poetry, and all of a sudden you can look at it, and it really, after you get after the level to take it as a bad joke maybe, or a Duchampian joke, after you get over the level of dismissing it as stupid, all of a sudden if you really take it seriously, it becomes poetry. So I think the film was also inspired in a way by this new attitude that I found in Bert Porter, that everything around can be framed in a way as being poetical. So, well, maybe these two things, I don't know.
Thank you. There is another question here.
Hello, good evening. And
Good
I
evening.
also think the movie is very good. First, I'd like to connect myself to the previous question because I also find it very interesting to hear about the influence of Italian cinema on your work, because I also find ironic because I don't know if you're aware of this, but you will be delighted to find out that at the moment the four highest grossing Italian movies ever are comedies made by the Italian equivalent of Bobita. But my question is, so it seems from hearing you speaking and also from watching the movie itself that you are quite pessimistic about the modern times, and I cannot blame you, to be honest. I also personally think that at the moment the world is in a worse place than it was 10 years ago. And I myself am like 20 years old. This means that the world has been going worse for half of my lifetime. But my question is, do you think that there is a way that the world might become better someday? And also, if that happens, do you think you'll still be able to make new movies about it?
Well, it's like this is a question for God, not for me. For the Pope, at least. I don't know. Well, I don't know if you. It's also, if you want a reason to be optimistic, maybe I should say this. I read an interview a few years ago, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name. It's a very famous and important paleontologist, and he said that the human beings are more and more pacifist. I don't know, because he said if you study the bones from hundreds of thousands of years ago, you discover that 1 in 3 people, or proto people, how you want to call it, were killed by another fellow being. And that nowadays, with all the massacres, with Holocaust, with everything, it's, I don't know, less than I don't know, 4% or 3% or even less than that, I think. So he said, look what a progress humanity had, from 33% of people being killed by their fellow men now to less than 2 or 3%. So this is, well, of course, nowadays it's possible that one person could kill many and one person could destroy the world. But apart from that, he said, it's a huge progress.
So you need a very long perspective to be optimistic.
Yes. And about the progress, I don't know. The title is from a Polish aphorist, Stanislaw Jerzy. And at some point, he has another aphorism, which I love. He asks, is it a progress if a cannibal uses the fork and knife? And that's a question. I don't know. I cannot answer directly to the question. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Ci sono altre domande? Curiosità? Sì, allora arrivo, aspetta che sei proprio lì in mezzo. Vengo di qua.
So my question is a bit easier. I was like,
thank you. Grazie.
I was wondering for why did you use the slow-mo in in the movie? Because it makes me feel like I don't know. A few times I felt it was funny, but sometimes it was kind of creepy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was just curious about that.
Oh, it was not meant to be like that. It started with my desire to choose, after I chose the pieces from the film, the fragments from that film, and I put them in the editing. And I realized that the details I wanted to be seen were not visible because the speed of the normal film. And now it's a question regarding the fact that, as I said, that film has a lot of subversive elements, at least for us Romanians, or Romanians of a certain age who could understand the 80s. And these elements are usually in the background. Like, for instance, when the camera is passing from the car, like 2 seconds, you see people waiting in a long queue for some products, probably food or something like that, and that was something that was forbidden to be shown. And I'm sure that Lucian Bratu chose this small pen movement like that from the car for 1 second, just to give a glimpse of that, and the censorship didn't stop the film, didn't look at the film like we can watch it today, stopping it and slowing it down. So I wanted to emphasize this element. So then I remember the Etienne Jules Marais and this kind of proto cinema where they were always studying the reality, slowing down, if you want, the perception. It's not the speed of how we perceive things, but smaller than that, slower than that. And we tried this, and it seemed that at least it works. That sometimes these details are better visibly more visible, and also, as you said, that slowing down a film, like slowing down a piece of music or a piece of recording, creates other type of effects, sometimes funnier, sometimes more sinister. So the question is, it's something interesting here, because the music is very cheesy in that film. It's really, really a very cheesy music. And all of a sudden, if you slow down this cheesy music, it becomes sinister. So my question is like a question even for myself. Is the sinister effect existing before in the material, in a way, like in the subconscious of the material, if I can say like that, and we just took it out? I don't know, but I find it intriguing that such a lively, cheesy music becomes all of a sudden so sinister, because not all music becomes like that. So it's a bit of play of playing seriously or experimenting with these elements as well. Also with zooming in sometimes inside the materials. I think I don't even think I did it. I didn't know how to do it more. I think I should have make it more than I did it, but didn't know how to do it.
Well, I would say that it's also a way to investigate life and stop it, even if it's not a real life but a movie, but it's always a way to stop movement and life itself.
Yes, that's a good idea. I will use it from now on.
No, please.
No, I think it is, yes, but actually it's because if cinema is something like Rossellini said, right? Like it's a way to study reality. It's a way to study what's in front of the camera. Then the speed, then the speed is also part of the research. Sometimes you can see things if you make them in fast forward, like these films, botanical films about how plants grow, and you have to really make them much more fast forward, in order to be able to see how a plant is growing or how the clouds are passing, etc. Otherwise you have to slow down. Otherwise you can see things with the normal speed of perception, let's say. So I think we should use more. I would like to make a film only in slow motion, but the problem is that slow motion becomes so cheesy, so kitsch, that I don't know how to do it. But I'm thinking of this idea.
Ok, thank you. C'era un'altra domanda qua? Ok, arrivo.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I was really impressed by the way you portrayed like Romanian people, because I went to Romania a lot of times during the past 2 years, and I wanted to ask, how was the feedback like from the Romanian people?
Well, it's I tend to judge it compared with my other films. So I think that in some of my previous films, I touched topic like the slavery of the Roma, of the Gypsies, or the participation of Romania into mass murder on the Eastern Front in 1940s, and these topics are taboo in Romania, are somehow not touched, or at least not in cinema, and that created sometimes strong reaction against the film, big scandals or small scandals, I don't know, and a lot of press articles against the films, and many times in favor of the films from other part of the critics or audience or public or whatever. But in this case, there was not so much of that because it's not such a taboo topic, let's say. But I think, well, if I can summarize a little bit, there was a kind of, which also happened with my previous film, which is called Bad Luck Banging or Looney Porn, a kind of that which was more controversial because of the topic. But in this case, the only problem sometimes was the form, like people watching the film and saying, I didn't understand anything, or that's so stupid, why to make this comparison with the old film, or this is not how a film should be. And well, I can understand. I can understand why I'm not judging it. I'm just saying, which was part of the most interesting reactions. And well, nothing to do here. I think one of the things that cinema can do is exactly to and for me, the structure itself is part of the style of the film, or it's part of the film. I couldn't make a film if I don't have a structure. And the structure is maybe the most important thing, and the rest comes after the structure. And I suffer most of the time in order to find the structure. So I think it's normal that I think I'm the same when I see something which doesn't fit my expectations. The first reaction is to reject it. But I don't have a problem with rejection because I think that sometimes it's the first step for acceptance. So I think it's good. Any reaction is good. It's okay. So yeah, but otherwise, the film was very, very well received by a part of the audience, very well received by most of the critics. It's interesting to see that even in this case, critics that were against my previous films, in this case, they said, well, now we got used to it in a certain way, so this film is better. So I don't know.
There is another question.
And otherwise, of course, it was not a big hit in cinemas, you can imagine. That I think we have now, until like 2-3 years ago, we were always asked by a certain part of audience, and I think it's a justified question in a way. Why don't you make commercial films? Why don't you make commercial films? Why don't you make commercial films? Now we have a string of directors making commercial films. I'm not judging their quality, but there are commercial films. But now the question is not, so now we can have all kinds of cinema, but the thing is, why there are still filmmakers who don't make only commercial films? So it's a never-ending thing.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I have another question. I lost your first answer, so I hope you didn't answer before. So I'm gonna ask you 2 questions, and maybe one is new. So I'm very curious about your process, both in writing and in shooting, and was it like bits and pieces of your own life and things you observed, that you put them together and put on a story and a script, or how much of a documentary is the film we watched? And same thing with the shooting days. Like during shooting days, did you have a schedule, or you always try to save some time to get shots that weren't they weren't scheduled. So yeah.
Well, for the first question, I answered half of it saying that it was partly autobiographical, meaning by that there were stories that I encountered while working, like because I started my career, so to speak, like that, doing all kinds of jobs. But now the process of writing, if we get to that, I think it's a good question, and also one of the problems that I think for me, I don't know, the cinema of today has, it's that you're always asked to provide first like a very clean, neat script, and then make the film, etc. So this creates many time, I don't know, I see it in young filmmakers, and I'm also teaching, so I see it in students, the fact that the way they think of doing a fiction film is to stay in front of the computer with a white page and try to write, I don't know, interior, car, someone is doing that and says that, etc., etc. So, and I think that's, well, in some cases could be amazing. Of course, it's nothing to judge here, but in my case, I cannot do that. I need to start from some elements, from gathering the materials, let's say. So after I have a certain theme or a certain idea or several ideas, I try to research them in all possible manners, collecting materials, either if they are in books, in real life, in meeting with people, in other films, in painting, in whatever forms I find, and I take all this and put together in certain folders I have in my computer, and only after I have enough of elements, I can try to start putting them in to form a script in a way, or to form a document to use for shooting. So it's like more like a collage structure, and build then a pure creation, like staying in front of the white page, imagining something, and then putting it down. It doesn't really work very well for me this way. And then, well, regarding the shooting was so short, we only had 21 days to shoot the whole movie, so that we had to do it very fast. So there was not much more time to thinking, and we had a schedule quite tight. But of course, there were sometimes it depends on the scene. In some scenes, there was a little bit of improvisation, and sometimes a lot of improvisation, mostly from me, not from the actors necessarily. I'm the one who improvises, not them. And I say that very very clearly, that I have the feeling that even if what I propose is not very good, what they come with, it's not much higher. So that's why I'm not very much interested in the improvisation of the actors. Sorry if I seem too narcissistic. And then, yeah, there was a few elements, but as I said, because we had such a tight schedule, because of not having a lot of money, but it was not only a problem of money, because I think at some point we could have had a few days more. But I felt that in a way, accepting the provocation of doing the film in such a few days is better than having the luxury to do it as long as possible, because it was a certain type of energy that appeared because we were rushing to make the film in a way. It's something, I think comfort of all kinds sometimes is dangerous. Sometimes, of course, you need it, but I think you need a balance between having attention, between comfort and the lack of comfort. I don't know.
I think we could go on asking questions all the night, but as we are not paying you for this extra work, and it's really late.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be in Italy. No.
Thank you. But we hope to have you here in real person in future for maybe also for this movie or the next one. I don't know if you already have
Oh,
a project.
I shot 2 this year, so I'm editing now.
Okay, perfect. So we wait for you for one of those movies.
I hope so. At least one. At least one should be reasonably good. I don't know.
We are very close to the railway station, so you can reach us easily if you come to Milan.
Yeah, I would love to. I was in Milan once or twice, but very little time.
So come here and we will show you the city and especially the cinema.
Yes,
and,
I would love to. I would love
our
to.
audience will be happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Grazie molto. Pace e gioia, Milani.
Grazie a te, grazie davvero. Thank you very much.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci and
Viva
good
Italia.
night.
Good night. Bye bye.
Bye bye, thank you.
Bye.
Grazie a tutti anche per le domande e per essere rimasti fino a tarda ora.